But the lover and the beloved is really it's a flow of energy. And the best way to describe it is that I know is it's like the yin and yang, right? Now, in the West, yin and yang is an Eastern concept, and it's the concept of opposites completing the whole. And so the yang in the Western interpretation is that that's male, and that the yin is female. But in my experience, this Eastern concept of yin and yang, the yang force is not necessarily male. It has those qualities, but it's projective, right? So you have projective, like the sun projects energy, it shoots out energy. The earth receives that energy. So, and the earth's known as being feminine, right? But the thing about this is that there are no genders in love. Love has no genders, right? And that's why there can be a gay couple with two males, but there's a polarity there. But there's no genders. That's where people get this confused. That's why it's partly confusing. But if you go back to the yin and yang, we're talking about trying to get to the bottom of this energy flow and understand it, because this is the core concept that's going to lead to the merger, which is what we're all looking for. And that's where we get to that, the real love. So the yin and yang is there's a projective, right, which is like the male, but it's not male. And then there's the receptive, which is like the female, but it's not female. And so that's the basis of it. So with the yin and yang, there's an energy flow. It flows from projective to receptive. And so that's what happens in a relationship, in every relationship, and it's fixed. So if Sally is with Bill, then whoever is the projective or the giver of the energy, and whoever's the receiver of the energy, or uh, the acceptor or the receiver of the energy, those two, that's a fixed relationship. But that's what you have to establish. And then that's in poetic terms or in religious terms, that's what's known as the lover and the beloved. And so that's what you're looking for in creating relationship success, is to find the flow of the relationship. Who's the, as our teacher says, who's the giver and who's the taker? But the word taker, that I bump on that. More receiver is more accepted by my mind, but there's a flow of the energy from one to the other. There's an origin of the flow, and then there's a destination of the flow. And that's what you have to figure out. Now, in meditating on this, one of the kind of metaphors that I came up with is, and by the way, there's no value judgments here, right? Because somebody's the giver, but there's no better or worse. It's not quantified like that, right? It's just the flow of energy, and it takes two to tango. You need the energy to flow from one place to the other. So the energy has to flow and it has to be received, and that completes the duality, and that's what takes you to the divine flow. Uh, my meditating on this, I thought, wow, rivers, they flow into the ocean. Now, the ocean is a vast body of water. So if you're making quantitative judgments, you would say, oh, the ocean's better than the river because the ocean's bigger. In the West, we're all ego oriented, so we get like that. We're like, oh yeah, bigger is better and all that kind of stuff. That's where this people's minds get trapped. But the ocean's not better than the river. It's all water, right? But the river flows and gives to the ocean. That's so the flow is the river's the giver, the ocean is the receiver. But the ocean's vast. It's not any less than the river. It's just the way the energy flows, right? The current of the river flows into the ocean. The ocean's got its own currents, but it takes what the river is giving, and that way it works. Then the ocean, the water evaporates. The ocean gives to the sky, which now the sky you could say is more vast than the ocean because it's covers everything. And the oceans are they're vast, but they're not as vast as the sky. And that the clouds are created, then that the sky then gives back to the river, and each one of those is its own relationship. So in the river ocean relationship, the river is the giver, the ocean's the receiver. In the sky ocean relationship, the ocean's the giver and the sky is the receiver. and then the sky gives back to the river. So then the river becomes the receiver in that other relationship. That makes sense?
Yeah.
So this is what like that people don't understand, that there's that flow in the relationship has to be established, and that creates harmony. And then in that stage of the lover and the beloved, that's when the purification happens.